Kwanzaa 365, the virtual Black birthing experience. I'm Andrea Jacobo, and I am, or like my mother calls me, Andrea Jacobo. And I'm here really excited to moderate the panelists with Shantae and Simona. We have a really rich discussion today on regarding what works on Black birthing and maternal health, and how we're all able to honor the principles of environmental justice along with the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And so I'm super honored to be here as a public health student. This is the type of conversations we need to be able to birth a new way of doing, looking at public health and how we center wellness in the Black community. And so I'm going to pass it on to Simona to introduce herself and her work, and then I'll pass it back to Shantae. Does that sound good?
That sounds good.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Thanks everyone for joining. First of all, thanks Black Millennials for Flint for having me. I just love when I can work with other organizations. So I was very excited to receive the invitation. So I'm Simona. I am a Howard alumna. I live in DC with my husband and our 3 boys. I'm also a bonus mom to his daughter who's turning 13 soon. I went to school for PR. So by day, I am a film publicist. I'm a freelance film publicist, but mostly why people know my work is through District Motherhood, which I co-founded with my PR bestie, Nikki Osei Barrett. And District Motherhood is the largest organization in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area that exists to make the Black motherhood experience a well and an exciting and positive ones for the Black mothers in this area. So we're a nonprofit. We're very engaged on social media where we put a lot of jokes to brighten, find fellowship and know that you're not alone. And we put out a lot of resources like events happening in the city or things you should know. We also have a newsletter. We have large staple events. We produce a conference called the Conference, and we also have a membership-based society within the organization. And then we just do a lot of programs and ensure that we are doing a lot of philanthropic work in the area. So we just exist to create a united front with the Black mothers here and to ensure that it takes a village to raise them up.
I love that. I love that, especially about taking a village. And what I love about creating villages is that we're able to cultivate a village virtually, and we're able to share and exchange ideas. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation and what you're able to bring to the table, Simona. Shantae, welcome. Well, please feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Shantae Terhune Smith. I'm originally from Detroit. I've lived in the Genesee County area for I think 16 years now. Here is where I found my passion to become an IBCLC. And then I also became a birth doula, a postpartum doula, and a childbirth educator. I've worn several hats in very different spaces. I've worked for WIC, I've worked at local hospitals, and I'm just very passionate about the things I do. I partner with Revive Community Health Center here in Flint. I also a co-founder of Southeast Michigan IBCLCs of Color. I offer courses to help people sit for the exam for the IBCLC, and I also offer breastfeeding courses for doulas to expand their knowledge to support families in that way also. So I do a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm a mom of 4. I have 2 teenagers in high school. I feel your pain, Simona. And I have 1 boy out of all of those, and he is the baby, so he knows how to work us all. So I am happy to be here, of course. Thank you for having me, and I'm ready to enjoy the night with you ladies.
Definitely. And one of the things that I appreciate about both of you in your introduction is the fact that we wear many hats, and we're always finding ways to educate ourselves so that we can educate our communities. And this is why we're having this event, so we can all integrate the learnings from environmental justice and the principles of Kwanzaa, and how that is integrated in well-being and the birthing experiences for Black mothers, especially across different intersecting identities and gender. So the next thing we're going to do, we're just going to jump into our live discussion. The next 30 minutes, we're able to ask some questions to both Shantae and Simona, and then we'll have an opportunity to have a deeper dive into the topic today. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We are here to continuously bring forth new ideas and how we are able to shift this next season into the new year. And so the first question I have is for Simona. What is District Q? I know you already mentioned it a little bit more, but now you can get into a little deeper. And how does their work with the organization uplifts one of the principle Ujoma, which means unity?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, I think when you enter motherhood, it's just so important to not feel alone. And with the principle of Umoja, one thing District Motherhood again exists for is to have this united front. Like no matter how you came into your motherhood journey, whether you're from the DMV and you just moved here or whatever it is, once you enter that space of motherhood, you know that there is this group of Black moms who look like you, who more than oftentimes have similar stories in motherhood or entry to motherhood like you. And you just feel unified in a lot of the things that you do share. And I think it's important in motherhood where when it can be an isolating experience. So being able to get into a group of women and know that, look, these women share a lot of the concerns that I have, and there is grouping in here and community. I think anyone that has experience, even me as a co-founder, I myself have experienced the feel good of the community that we created. So that's one thing I would say, like, we exist to be that family, to be that community for Black moms in this area. And not only like when I mentioned with finding resources, but getting that tangible support, like advice with whether you're navigating co-parenting or if you're new in motherhood, understanding what is a doula, and us being able to connect you with resources and organizations in this area that provide free doula services or free lactation consultants, or where you can find a Black doctor, and what practices they are. So that is in essence, if someone was to put organizations under the principle of Umoja, District Motherhood would certainly fall under that, because people move here and they would email us and say, hey, my sister's a mom, she moved to the DMV, I sent her your way. And that feels good because we can be described and identified as a community.
I love that, and what you're saying also is this how the having a warm handoff versus a cold one that typically happens when we don't center unity into the principles of the way that organizations run. Right. Especially having like, oh, this person knows who I trust, therefore this place is going to be an experience for me that is centering my well-being. I love that. I love how you brought that forth. And, as we are understanding how do we create more unity, especially during a time of isolation, what I'm so hopeful about is how you're integrating different ways of connecting with one another versus just having that word of mouth.
Right.
Yeah. And kind of shifting kind of the conversation into another principle on the self-determination. I know during the Flint water crisis at the peak, childbearing people within Flint, city of Flint, were experiencing the most heartbreaking birthing and pregnancy experiences ranging from miscarriages to premature birth, and even irreversible health conditions after as a result of lead poisoning. And so, Shantae, this question is for you. How does your tell us about your past work and how your current work with YOLO and how it embodies self-determination, Kujiga Guria.
Yeah, I guess that was something I had forgot to mention when in the intro that I'm the owner of YOLO. I'm like, duh, like, but yeah, so like my past work, so I was still within the health department during the water crisis, and I also like prompted me to really get my own business going and off the ground like that. And just the avoidance of red tape. Because, like, when you're dealing with something like that and you work under a certain type of entity, of course, it's like the political answers, the answers that you think the community wants to hear, but are you really doing some things on the other end of things? And I'm just that rebel against the machine. And that will get you in trouble. And so it was kind of like, you know what, I really need to focus on how can I center Black moms? How can I get the services that I wish I had? And just even home visits, those types of things, removing those barriers of transportation and all of that. Like I really invested like my own money and a lot of after working 40 hours a week, my own time of trying to get YOLO off the ground. And I mean, it was a lot of sweat and tears and a lot of like it not going exactly how you envision it to go and really restructuring to what listening to moms and dads and what they feel like they wanted in families in general. And so it was a lot of sleepless nights and no funding and working for free sometimes. But I just kept pushing through and I just really thought the vision would happen eventually. And to me, that's where the self-determination came from in it.
You know, I feel as you're explaining your story, I'm just understanding like when you're in it, like you're right now after the fact and you're able to reflect and see that. But I can tell that it was the grit, it was the like vision and focusing on the vision of what this will become that allowed you to bring through the self-determination to get YOLO off the ground and definitely embodying it. And I think, one of the things I appreciate what you just mentioned is just like, how do we be able to cultivate ourselves, our community, along with doing what we need to do in politicking and having that good trouble like Latricia mentioned. So, it's been quite an opportunity. Did you want to say something, Simona? I don't know. I just saw that you're
No,
unmuting. Okay.
I was unmuting because my mouse is acting funny and it's taking forever to unmute.
Yeah.
So I was just getting out of it. Yeah.
But
no, I was just listening.
Okay. I believe in like, serendipitous like moments. So maybe I don't know if you have anything to add to what, how you're using self-determination within your own work, and what other thoughts that come to mind.
Absolutely. I mean, similar to Shantae, this work isn't easy, like it's not exactly sexy or glamorous at all, especially once you dive into the nitty gritty and the hard work and the trying to get volunteers and grants and donations. You're sometimes wondering like, why am I even doing this? Like, why am I up late stuffing care packages for NICU families? Like, why am I sending emails just to get a lot of sponsorship so that Black mothers, but I think when you're called to do something, especially organizations that are, truly beneficial and truly thriving, I believe that people are called to do it, and and you're called to do it specifically to reach those that you do reach. Because as obviously there's so many mommy organizations, you have Jack and Jill, you have Mocha Moms, and especially now I'm so happy to see that there are these mommy groups popping up all over the country and mommy events and stuff. And I think all of them are important. But for me, seeing the fruits of our labor, seeing the progression, seeing the friendships and the sisterhood that have been created and fostered through District Motherhood, seeing the smiles of the children in low income communities because they're celebrating this back to school virtual learning box that District Motherhood came together and fought just to get a 600 free pencil. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff matters. That matters, and it feels good. And it doesn't always feel good when you're working at it, but because we've been doing this for a long time, our self-determination comes from remembering the reward of that good feeling, and that's how we keep going. Because like Shantae said, it's not easy. It's not the sexiest thing. It's not the work that could immediately get you like a paycheck. And we're moms too. Like, we also have a social life. We also are fostering relationships and family and friends and our children. So to be able to do this work where you're also being exposed to so many people and their stories, and when you are exposed like that, when you are providing a service, folks are always ready to ensure that you keep giving it to them, and that can do a lot, to your spirit, trying to switch from Simona District Motherhood to Simona Mom to Simona, where I don't even want to think about that. But you're in a space where you're so exposed and have so much access to you. So those are the moments where for me, similar to Shantae, it comes from just remembering why I'm doing it and remembering all the times that I saw a smile on a mama's face, or saw that someone said, "Oh my God, without this organization, this wouldn't have happened," or whatever it is. So that's what keeps us going.
I love that. I love that you've shared that point, because what it just makes me think about is like the next principle on Ujima, and how collective work and responsibility is key in order for us to understand how to create more pathways for and centering wellness and bringing the culture back to community. And what I love the most is the teamwork makes the dream work. Mm-hmm. And exactly. And, it makes me think about how, with how racist and discriminatory practices within hospital systems do take away the actual experiences of birthing people, especially depending on their different identities. And so, how do you use this critical principle, which you already talked about, but I would love to have people to go into more detail so that people can understand, and how you're using this critical principle to preserve the long-term well-being of childbirthing people during pregnancy, and especially but postpartum.
Yeah. So for us with District Mother, especially with the Black birthing experience, and with that principle of Ujima, making our community's problems our own, right? And not for me, I had a wonderful birthing experience. I love my doctor. Anyone that knows me knows, like, at this point, I was sad after I wasn't pregnant anymore. Like, dang it, I ain't gonna see you no more. And I just loved her. But I also realized that is not the story of so many of our sisters out here. And because that's not the story of so many, and being a leader in this mommy space, I am ensuring that we're not disregarding those stories and making it our own. And what that looks like for us is, similar to what you said, Andrea, when you just identified that there's a lot of barriers behind past this doctor's info, Dr. Lightfoot of Fox Hall. She's amazing. And what that looks like for us is being able to identify what those sorts of barriers are, right? Like, beyond the idea of, hey, there's racism, because sometimes you can find a Black doctor and it may not go well, you know what I mean? Or, hey, like, it's just, obviously racism is the root of all of a lot of our evil and sadness here. However, being able to identify what that racism like looks like beyond my doctor. So it's like, does that look like I live in an area where there's no access for me to get to an actual a good practice? You know, is there like east of the river here? Um, there is no hospital with a birthing center here in Southeast DC, which is mind blowing to me, you know, which means people have to travel to Northwest to deliver. And sometimes mentally it's a lot when you're pregnant and you may not have the money to get an Uber, you may not have the support. So being able to identify where it's like, is this a problem of access of transportation, or am I not doing well in my pregnancy because I don't have access to the proper foods and the vitamins that I need to take? Or am I not doing well in this because I may not see my doctor till the very end of, you know, my trimester, my last trimester, and you've missed the wealth of knowledge and the support that you could have had in terms of what to eat, what to not eat. Just signs of preeclampsia, you having a high hypertension, high blood pressure, you know, all these things. So being able to identify that for us is where we are able to say to our DMV mom tribe, like, okay, what was your experiences? Let's figure out where we went wrong, especially when it comes to the maternal mortality rate. And with that, just thinking, okay, well, there's no hospital here. Like, who is the at-large council member that we need to talk to figure out when is this coming? What can we do? And sometimes what we can do is just spreading information like, hey, y'all, this is coming out, or they need people to sign this petition, or we need to volunteers to go here, we need to go lobbying, we need to know, like, we need to be able to identify what that is, and then so that our work can be measured correctly. If we know that we only have one grocery store in Southeast, no pregnant person is going to pregnant people could hardly wait 5 minutes to eat. Do you think I want to be waiting an hour in line, you know, to get my groceries because they're short staffed and everyone is frustrated? And that's not exactly doing well for the mental health of a pregnant mom, you know. So there are all these like nuances that can seem like every day, but for us being able to identify, how about we just cut off the grocery run dilemma, and let's see what we can do weekly by providing healthy food, so that we know that District Motherhood is somewhere weekly where you can get these bags of groceries that will hit that nutrient mark. You know what I mean? So that for us is how we are able to um make that community our own, so that, you know, like going back to the principle of Umoja, that there is a united front here, you know, that there is a group of women here ranging from all sort of socioeconomic status that can reach out to these Black doctors and say, hey, what's going on? Like, can you come here? Can we have conversations like this? Can we do an IG live? If a lot of the women who are having these issues don't have time to be on social media, then let's identify where they are. You know, are they working? You know, is this something that we can partner with? Like, if most of them are working at Giant or local, is this something that we can partner with different grocery stores and community service programs so that we can do our pop-up panels or events, so that we can get that information out there? Like, this is where you're supposed to eat. You can advocate for yourself. You can ask your doctor this. If they say no, you know what I mean? You may feel stupid if you have like a white man looking at you and being condescending. Like, don't let that, you know, like push you down. So that makes you feel like, okay, you didn't go through what I went through, but we are still all in the same, and we can educate each other in an effort to do our part in making sure that we reduce that maternal mortality rate.
And what I love about everything that you just mentioned is goes back to your first point about it takes a village, because every person in that village is working on policy, working on advocacy, working on connecting health and resources, being able to even get access to food. It's beautiful to see how much of the collective work. And Shantae, I would love to know more how you're also doing the work within Flint and with YOLO and whatnot.
So something Simona said, as far as like you can be Black and that doesn't mean that you're still the best like physician for somebody else. I'm really big on harm. Like that's like my big thing. Like I'm like, who causes harm to the clients that I've associated with, like had the pleasure of serving, and I make a note of that. I'm like, okay, you. I know that you've caused harm. I'm not going to refer anybody. I think like knowing that families trust you, I feel like that's your responsibility. Like once you become that trusted person in a community, it's a responsibility. Like when you refer for resources, like I want you to know, like people will be like, I know you know somebody that does this or does that. Like for you to know if I referred you, they're gonna take care of you. Like it's no questions asked. And so when we talk about like collective work, since I had the pleasure of working in different hospital systems, I've gotten to know quite a few physicians or midwives, nursing staff. And so just getting to know them, where you don't want to birth at, who who you do want to deal with, like really getting to know and really learning to play nice in a sandbox. Like the reality of it is the majority of our physicians are not people of color. So if I can get you to respect me and what I'm doing for families, and you realizing like this is actually helping you have better birth outcomes, better breastfeeding rates, your patients are coming in educated, like you'll start to respect that and you'll want to collectively work with me regardless of the color of my skin and how you think like will your patients really use this service or will they blow it off, like you'll start to see results. And so I'm starting to see more of that in the community and working with other providers.
You know, I love how you mentioned the harm that may be done by physicians and how you're focusing on that, especially that, you know, even with different physicians that may be presenting they're Black and they're presenting, they may cause harm as well because they have been educated in a system that allows race to be one of the elements how do we provide care, and one of the determinants, and it's causing harm. And you know, we're all about we're right now, this conversation is about creating a new future, especially the next year. And you know, how do we mentioned economics in the conversation so already, and one of the principles of Kwanzaa is ujama, which is cooperative economics. And so Simona, you had a conference called Mom Friends, the national renowned conference. Can you tell us a little bit more how you're using ujama in the Mom Friends, and how it started and where it's going now?
Yeah, I love the mom friends. It's like Wakanda for moms. We have it's amazing. So the weekend after Mother's Day, we're going into Mom Friends year 5. The weekend after Mother's Day, we have about 600 to 700 moms gather from around the country, and they come to DC. And initially, it was a 1-day conference, and last year it transitioned to a 3-day momcation. So we're going to keep that. But the whole idea was for moms to get together and learn from each other, learn from motherhood experts, whether they're in education or parenting, um, check out our mommy influencers, and just really get a place where all these Black moms are together, mainly because there are a lot of so many amazing conferences focused on women, where there's like women boss women this or uh bloggers this, but we just know that it's like one thing to live the experience of a woman, and then when you add motherhood to that, it looks a little different, because you know, building your business is different when you have a baby, or if you're a stay-home mom, or your money can't go. Entrepreneurship looks different when your money is going to rent and building your business, and for us it's going to rent, diapers, and building a business, and amongst other things. So we wanted to make sure that we can uplift and gather Black mothers from all over for a day of fun. And when we say conference, we're not thinking like gray walls, hard chairs, listening, for this, but it is anyone who has been, or anyone watching now knows that our color is purple. It is a full day of brunch and dancing and the check it our whole we kick it off with a whole dance party. But what you're referring to with Ujama is our mommy market. And our mommy market is a very exciting part of the conference where we have about 60 vendors. They apply to be there. We bring unique vendors here, and it is just a way for these moms to really support our own and spend their money on these businesses. And we have all sorts of vendors, service providers, real estate agents, doulas, jewelry makers, lotion. Oh, I said lotion, whatever, Bath and Body, all that stuff. I'm thinking about Bath and Body Works because I was looking at my candle, but so we have all this stuff, but it's just so fun. The first time we did it, I honestly could not believe my eyes. It felt like a modern day market, and to see that all the business owners were Black. That was just such an amazing feeling. And to see all the shoppers were Black. And I think that is just, it gave me such a high to know, and these businesses were selling out, and I think it does something to know that whatever their ideas were for their products, it does something when you sell out, or when someone has purchased your product, to know that my work matters and my thought and my ideas matter. And it encourages these business owners to see their businesses through from ideation to fruition, where you're right there selling at the vendor. So that's how we uplift the principle of Ujama through our mommy market. Okay, all the vendors are like, we're trying to be there. And not only with the Mom Friends, every year in celebration of Small Business Saturday, the day after Black Friday, we do a holiday shop and play, and we bring about 25 to 30 vendors, and we're the only holiday market that features only Black and mom-owned brands. So we love that, because this is given, you know what I mean? Like, we're spending for Christmas. So this is giving an opportunity for these Black mamas to come there, and they are selling everything from coquito to earrings to cool little Black girl magic pins, like everything that, yeah, it's listen, I need to find, yes, I will get you, because I'm not a coquito drinker, but that girl at the market, she sold me. But they have it's just beautiful. So for us, we want to make sure that we are putting these Black businesses, especially in our area, on the map. So that's what we do.
I love it. I love it. Make the economic go around block 3-4 times.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait to see how. I need to go online and see all like your pictures from before, because I want to go. I'm not a mother yet. I hope to be one day.
But
and
you
so
can still come and shop.
Okay, well, I'm going to come and shop.
You can still come to the holiday shopping.
Especially with all the different innovation and creativity and beauty that comes out of that market.
Yeah.
Shantae, I also want to hear about your perspective on the power of Black economics, especially with the Black worker space and the work that you're doing.
So a couple things. I feel like I take a different vibe of just when new birth workers, Black birth workers, come into spaces and they're like, "Hey, can I pick your brain?" My whole thing about us in Black economics and protecting it and the space, after being in certain spaces, protecting our ideas. Like, we get into certain spaces and we give folks our ideas in larger box organizations, and they will take our ideas and they will profit from it in a way of which we could have benefited within our own community and had our own thing. And then the thing is, lots of times we don't even get the credit for it. We don't get the credit, or we'll get it off the ground, and then somebody who does not look like us is running it. And I am speaking from experience, and I had to learn the hard way. And so it's really my soapbox for Black women getting into business, whether it's lactation, whether it's birth work, and even when we are invited into spaces to be on how they say coalitions or committees, and we still can get taken advantage of in those spaces. And so I really like to uplift that, like for us to be careful and for us to like take that idea and develop it on your own instead of doing it for somebody who's paying you the paycheck, or just um, even when we are in the spaces of collaborative work. And it could still be something that you might want to collaboratively work with other people, but maybe have that be with other Black birth workers instead of letting somebody else take off and run with it. So that's like my soapbox for us all. But besides that, like helping other folks get their businesses off the ground. I'm really big on us creating our things and they look professional, like our websites, our social medias. Really taking pride in what we put out as Black birth workers. Because to me, that's sometimes what sells people and what sets us apart is our professionalism. The next generation of birth workers, like I might look like I'm still a spring chicken, but I'm not. So like us thinking about what that'll look like in the future and having them be in better spaces than what we've had. Like we've been out here knuckles to the grind, like, and I would like for that to become the norm of us to not have to sit up here and always just depend on grant funding or having fiduciaries and us being able to apply for things ourselves. Like I'm really big on us teaching all of that to people who are coming up, and hopefully like if we are passing out this work to our daughters or nieces or whoever, that we're putting them in a better space where it's like, you know, you can actually live your life and not have to wear as many hats as we've been wearing as birth and lactation workers. Because it's a shame that some of us have to work 5 or 6 jobs to provide for our families, when the job of just even a birth worker, you could be 3 days at a birth. My gosh, like, you know, it's crazy. And then, but you still working 4 other jobs and going home to sleep for 5 hours and do that afterwards. So really us positioning ourselves to be the leaders and not like at the back of the line of this work or in the sauce where people want to use us to seem like they're reducing disparities, that face of putting a few of us at a table as tokens and us really changing it. But as you see, that's my soapbox. So yeah.
I don't think it's a soapbox. I think it's a podium that we need to, or a lectern, however you want to correct my word to use. I think it's, I really appreciate bringing it down, because when we talk about economics, we don't really, we talk about the financial parts of economics, not necessarily the ideas, the intellectual property, like one of people mentioned in the room. And so, but I really appreciate you centering us like, hey, don't give out your ideas for free, and also develop them yourselves. And I'm actually taking that myself, especially as we're doing this work. I'm in the in public health, and coalition building and capacity building is really important. However, it could come at a cost with and perpetuate tokenization. And I really appreciate you saying that. And then also preserving yourself, and how do we not just preserve ourselves, but how do we hold institutions accountable and policies that can provide infrastructure so that the people don't have to pay for be within 4 to 5 jobs just because they're doing something that is really needed to reduce health disparities. So that's the work right there. I really appreciate you centering that. And like that goes to your purpose. You mentioned your soapbox, and that mentions your purpose. It's your purpose is to be able to bring truth to power. And that is actually one of the principles of Kwanzaa, Nia. And so, you know, that kind of leads us into the next question about motherhood is hard, and Black motherhood is even harder on the bodies that are constantly facing with different challenges within just being a Black woman in America. And so, and, you know, the intersecting of white supremacy and patriarchy and environmental justice that are accumulating and create a weathering effect on the body who's already about to give birth. And so as you manifest your purpose, your nia, how does that how do you do that within your work, and especially centering Black birthing experience in different platforms across the Black community? And this is for both you and Shante, you, Simona and Shante, if anybody you want to start.
I think we touched on this a bit, but in the sense of why like district motherhood exists. But for us, the way we even feel the birthing experience and when we talk about it is a lot of the trauma and issues that actually happen within the maternal mortality rate happen after the birth.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when you have moms who have a seemingly healthy delivery and things that are missed, and then you find out like they passed away the week after, or because someone didn't catch that they had, or their baby's in the NICU, you know what I mean? Like there's just so many things. So for one thing with district motherhood, we define the birthing experience like right at pregnancy, honestly, and ensuring that we are doing what we can to get these moms back to a place of knowledge where they're educated they're educated on what their birthing options are. So, which is what I mentioned before, we have this event every year called Boobs in the Park. And it's a chance for moms to come together and we connect them with a doula and a lactation consultant, and they come and they share so much knowledge that, you know, I, a 3-time mom, you know, I'm like, wow, I never, you know, would have known that. And I think the key to with Nia, which is essentially like restoring us back to, you know, our greatness, you know, what our purpose is just to ensure that while we may look beautiful on the outside, we want to make sure like our insides with our birthing experience and our motherhood experience is solid and it's healthy and is well, which is what I think the original state of Black motherhood is or was. Because if it wasn't the case, then there wouldn't be a need for so many mommy groups to be popping up, or I guess why these mommy groups exist. When district motherhood and other mommy groups pop up, it's thriving because there's this thirst for it. When other mommy groups like thrive or exist, it's because there's merely just a social need for it, because they're already in spaces where they can get the support from within their network, jobs, like life is just plain fair on your side. Whereas when district motherhood exists, it's like, oh my gosh, I needed this, you know, and it's great because that's why we're here, but it's also sad at the same time, because at one point that should not be what motherhood feels and looks like for us. We should not be having this many conversations about Black birthing experiences. Like the only way to get this world going is to birth. And the fact that we keep having these conversations about what Black women are going through is problematic. So with that, that is essentially our purpose. Like, how do we get back to this space so that we can, as great as these conversations are, so that we can reduce the need for these conversations because our birthing experiences are healthy. And like I mentioned before, that is by providing access and resources and knowledge, you know what I mean? That is informing our moms like, hey, here are your breastfeeding options. That is providing financial support, because sometimes a lot of these moms may go to work early because they cannot afford to stay home. So what does that look like for us? That means also we do weekly walks. One of the moms in our group leads a Tuesday weekly walk. And on the outside, it may seem like a walk, you know, and it goes back to my point. Like, I see there are different mommy groups in DC that would be having a weekly walk, and theirs is just to connect. Whereas ours may look like we're walking, but we're doing that to survive, because that may be the only time that we get to go out and breathe some fresh air. That may be the only time that we get to move our bodies, which is a good thing to do. That may be the only time that we get to speak to another adult, and that adult may potentially listen to what we're saying and say, hey, I think you have postpartum depression, and we may not know that that's what's, you know, happening. So not finding, because we have found, but pushing forward with these creative ways, everyday ways, really, like taking a walk and having boobs in the park, and throwing baby showers for our moms, little sprinkles so that they can see the other moms that they're delivering with. that is what we're here. And also connecting with these partners, coming back to the brand partnerships, connecting with these breastfeeding companies, so that we can have more access, so that our moms are able to have, not paying top dollar for something that they should be getting access to for free. You know what I mean? So our purpose is educating that, but also educating our moms, but also advocating for them to ensure that they have access to rooms and people that they may generally have their doors closed to their face. If that answered that question.
Yeah, you did. I love what you mentioned because these conversations are hard when we hear women who pass away because there was a lack of connection, and being able to close the loop, and kind of going back to what you mentioned, Shantae, where there's work that's being done to reduce these health disparities, but the truest work is not those type of connection. And I love how both of you are making your purpose, your nia, within how it can go beyond just education and towards policy. And Achente, I want you to share a little bit more about how you're using this principle. And you mentioned how it's being evolved, even how you're thinking about the future. What is that going to look like? And I'm always thinking about future. I'm thinking about sustainability. And so how is that also integrated with what you're doing for future working?
So with the purpose part, or you just saying that?
Purpose. Just
Oh,
and
like, hold on, let me make sure I answer it right.
Yeah, it's all related to purpose.
It is.
Yeah, and how you're using your innovation.
Yeah, like I just feel like I've always loved helping people, like since I was like a little girl. And so I feel like in this work, I feel families need to feel like loved and supported. And like so training, I had somebody here locally say we need like 10 more yous. Like, and you can't duplicate 10 more me's exactly like me. But even with like searching for mentees for a scholarship, like I really wanted to be intentional, like when interviewing, if I could see you serving me. Would you serve me like how I serve other families? At least I want you to have the heart, like personality wise, you don't have to be another me, but at least I want to be able to see your heart as a person. And I will want to have more of that, people who I will want to trust. And then I just really feel like it's about honoring the goals of families. Like that's what I feel like my purpose is. Like honor your goals. Like I can educate you. You can make you an informed decision from there. If you still tell me you only want to breastfeed for 3 months, well, I'm gonna make sure I get you to the other side. If you tell me your goal is to not have this baby with an epidural, and even if you tap out on me, my goal is still to get you to the other side. So I want when families when they've been served by Yellow, I want you to feel like you had a sister friend, somebody who was honest with you, like, hey, you little type A, I just want you to know. I will say it with love. But like for you to know, like even as a lactation consultant, like saying to a mama, like, hey, if it's between your mental health and if it's between you breastfeeding, I would rather you enjoy motherhood and decide to stop breastfeeding than for you to sit up here and just regret this later on down the line. So sometimes I think our purpose is to have hard discussions, for us to want to just be the servants that we would have wanted to serve us. And that is really where I look at it when I look at my purpose in this work.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I know, Simona, you're short on time, and I do want to respect some of your time. And also, I'm going to mush these two questions and these two principles, because you both mentioned about how you're using creativity to, bring forth the goals of the community, especially when they're centering the talking about wellness within their birthing experiences. And so one of the principles, Kumba, is creativity, and how you're using creativity within your work. But also, I think you mentioned this, Shantae, about having faith, right? And having faith in the processes, which is one of the other principles on Imani. And so, how are you being creative to keep the faith within your work? And how are you exuding that um, within the programs and the policies and the things that you mentioned before, and especially making sure that every woman has and every birthing person has an opportunity to keep their own faith and through the process.
Yeah. Blending those two principles together, with Kumba and leaving our communities more beautiful than we left them. I think the work speaks in itself, right? Even for Shantae, it is beautiful to see that having a doula is more normalized than it was back then. And I think while it may still be hard for us to, when we discussed doing the nitty gritty to get grants, to even sometimes have to answer to ourselves, why are we doing this mommy group? Why are we doing this mommy work? Like, does it even matter? Moms can just moms and we can just meet up sometime, but does this hard work really matter? And I think it does, because our children are benefiting from their moms being healthy. And every time, folks see District Motherhood together, whether they are having brunch, or having play dates, or learning how to discipline their kids in other ways that their parents used to, that is all coming from the community that we have created. And within that community, the resources and the knowledge that we have, either from experience or access to other professionals, that we pass amongst ourselves. And it feels good for us, but the true beneficiaries are the children, because they are going to grow up in healthy homes. They are going to then be disciplined in a healthy way, and in turn know how to discipline their children in a healthy way. And organizations and like District Motherhood, or the work that Shantae is doing, is the actual tangible work to break generational curses. When we're always talking about, it stops with me, or the generational curse is broken on my end, there's work to do that. It's not just posting a meme, like, it's actual work. Like, what does that look like? How are you demonstrating not how are you demonstrating making healthy choices, or advocating for yourself to a doctor, to your child, especially those of us who may have daughters? When you are in power, then you know better, and you're able to tell your daughter, you don't have, even a teenager going to see a gynecologist, they may not be experiencing going through birth, but even in the way that they're able to consume information and advocate for themselves is all a benefit from what they're getting from their mothers and how they're doing things. So the whole part for us, like Kumba, making this place more beautiful that we left it. Obviously, our children will do their part when they are of age, and they will do something different, and their children will benefit. But I think now this is the time where Black moms are really putting themselves on the map. People are not putting us on the map. We're putting ourselves on the map with the work that we're doing by advocating for ourselves. We're being very loud and taking the mic from people that are taking it from us. Our communities and our footprints are very deep, and they go so far and so wide. And once you start to empower Black women, they take less ish from people that try to stuff them or quiet them. And that is something beautiful, that when we're older, I know that my grandchildren are going to be living a different life, or have a different expectation of what your Black birthing experience, or what or of doulas. Like, no one's going to be like, oh, Dad, did you have a doula? It's going to be so normal, like, yeah, I did, or I didn't. You know what I mean? Because there's a shift, there's a change that's happening. We're living in it now, but at some point, District Motherhood, we gonna be the old aunties just trying to make it sometimes, and then our kids will be there, and we'll be able to really see how much more beautiful we left the world through their actions based on what we do today.
I am here for it. When you know better, you do better, and you create more beautiful spaces. Love it. I'm here for it. Shantae, what also you want to add to how you're using Kumba and Mia to keep your own faith in the work, and how, like what someone mentioned, we're breaking generational crises. So what would you like to add?
Yeah, so like for me to keep my faith, because like she said, Simona, you touched on it. Like some days you be like, "Ooh, is this the work?" Like, oh, I even have colleagues sometimes. Like sometimes we have to geek each other up. Like, no, like ain't no walk away. We in this together. You have to have those lift up sessions. Like, no, 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 this is what we do. And then like how Simona mentioned earlier, like, or you'll have that mom who say like without you it wouldn't have been this way, or I wouldn't have wanted my birth with nobody else. Like those would be the moments, and then I come back home, I'd be like, okay, I can do this for another couple of years. Like, it'll get you back in the game. And then like when I have those moments, like because like you'll have those periods like, am I gonna get more funding? Because like for me to serve as many families as I can that look like us, being able to do it for free is the benefit and sometimes the barrier of if somebody would or wouldn't get those services from you. So I have this scripture, blessed is she who believes that the Lord will fulfill what he promised unto her. That's my thing. Like I'll be like, okay, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And that is what I use to like keep the faith and be encouraged. Like, and you know you're gonna have those days where you like, this ain't it. And but just remembering and remember like how far, like I'm pretty sure Simona feels this way too, like how far we've come from the beginning until now. Oh, this is my blessed she tattoo though too. I got this year. Look, my pandemic tattoo. But yes, like just thinking like how far I came, and this being an idea of something that I really wanted to do to where it is now, I feel like that makes a really big difference into what it is. And I definitely feel like this work, and Simona was saying something, and from what you said, I think when you said like black women running this ish, I think it was something like how you said that. I can't get the exact line right,
We're
but
advocating
like
for ourselves.
we we out here doing it, but like, and I know we are in such a different space than where we at and where things are becoming more of the norm. But as this work is becoming more popular and things like that, like for us to really remember like it's our work and not to give it back to nobody else, because now so many people are jumping on the bandwagon, and now bigger organizations are like, oh, we gonna train all our doulas. I have a really big issue with employees wearing multiple hats. It's like, are you the nutritionist or are you the lactation consultant? And now you're going to be the doula too. And you paying this person for the one role, but now just so you can say your organization needs the funding to try to block out the rest of us who have been doing the work, for us not to let that happen and for them to try to take what we've been doing and implementing as grassroots organizations from us. So as this is the norm and where we're taking it now, and hopefully the more our organizations are empowered, even financially, that we don't let anybody take this from us.
Ooh, bring it home. Bring it home, because I'm just like, between the scripture and don't let anybody take it from us, I'm just like, okay, how do we call to action all the work? Because there's what you all are doing are inspiring others in the work, and I am because we are, and that's one of the last principles of Ubuntu. And so what is your call to action? I know I hear it in there, but what's your call to action so that people could hear from the back of the room and know how to empower our communities to have a better experience birthing?
Oh my God. I mean, Shantae, you saying like, don't let anyone take the work from us. That was self-determination right there. I'm like,
Right? Right.
okay, because I'll definitely have one of those weeks like, oh God, why are we doing this? My co-founder and us were like, girl, for what and why? But you're right, and to what she said, I Nikki and I, we always say, like, to whom much is given, much is required, and this was given to us, so there's so much required, and it was given to us as a gift, but we have to cultivate it. So that really just stood out to me. That was a good reminder. But for us, the call to action is, look, continue to support these Black organizations, you even if you're not a mother yet or ever will be, because you don't want kids, which is fine. Whatever your situation is, when you are seeing these organizations do the work, you have to think beyond yourself. And when you're thinking about the organizations to put your money behind, because sometimes, for the real, that's really what it is. Like, we have the ideas, we have the volunteers, we have the team, but sometimes we just don't have the money to execute. So, to be completely honest, when you're out to dinner with your friends, I would really challenge people to redefine what happy hour and dinner looks like. Still go to your happy hour, but maybe somebody can take a cash out for their favorite donation. Like, just make that a thing. And I think once we know that we're not waiting till Giving Tuesday or Mother's Day or whatever it is, we're not waiting till holiday season or Giving Tuesday, but we're normalizing giving to Black mom organizations, to Black birth workers, so that they continue to do the work. That is the call to action, from me. Like, support us, pay us, refer us, just
Yes.
give us
Yes.
money, because you're benefiting from the fruits of the labor. And sometimes that labor is not getting anything in return. We'll still keep doing the work, but it's helpful when you're like, sometimes it goes beyond a thank you. It's like, nope, let me put, and honestly, I'm gonna shout out Adrian McClanahan in this chat. Every time, like, Adrian is a repeat donation. Like, she's already set up. Like, every month we just be like, hey, Adrian has donated. And then I realized, I'm like, oh, she set it up as like a recurring donation. And that meant a lot to me. I'm like, and she's someone who's on the team, but nothing speaks more to what you believe in when you actually put your money like where your mouth is. So that's my call to action.
Thank you. And for those who are still here, make sure you go and support both Shantae and Simona and the work that they're doing with in DC and in Flint. Please go ahead. Shantae, take us home. We're about to close, and final thoughts and your call to action.
All mine's clear. Look, when somebody says close, I'm already like, oh man, that's the Koji girl in me. But Simona said it though, like one of my number one things is get money to Black organizations. Like, you can't keep
Yes.
saying how you support this work without giving Black organizations the money. We don't need your face for you to say you're doing the work when you could have had one of us doing the work, and it would have probably been more impactful than what your larger organization was going to be doing. And my other thing, my call to action is, and which will eliminate a lot of the things where there's not trust between Black grassroots organizations and the community, is instead of just saying you're an ally and you go onto the dinner table of conversations where the big money deals are at, where there's dinner, like how she said, if you go to happy hour, like, invite Black women to the dinner table, not as like your guest, but as a leader, like as a whole person on their own, and not like somebody, a subordinate under you. Like, let that Black woman be a leader at the same table that you're at, where the big money talks are going down at. Don't have that Black woman from that grassroots organization come to the kiddie table. That's the difference for me. Like, and I feel like that's the game changer, where we start to become owners of where the policies and the things like where we are starting to run hospitals and changing those bigger systems is like we have to start being at the dinner table. And so if you call yourself an ally and say you watching this or you catch this on a replay and you like, how can I be, and I'm all for allies. Shout out to the Michigan Breastfeeding Network. They are a great ally in the work I've been doing, and helping YOLO get funding and everything like that. But for you to know for sure that you're an ally, they don't go to tables to bat for me without me at the table too. To me, that's like an ally where you know you're using your power for good because I know you're a Black organization doing the work, and I'm trying to get you the real like equity, like you're getting compensated what you really should be doing to do this work instead of somebody paying you the pennies. So that's my tidbits.
Yes. Mm.
I just love how both of you just incorporate all the principles within your last few words of using Black cooperative economics to be able to make sure and support Black organization. Thank you so much, especially when we pull up the chair to the table and make sure women are leading, Black women and Black birthing people leading in the work. Thank you both. You have filled my cup, as well as many other cups that are in the room right now. I am super excited to be able to be part of this conversation with you all. Make sure that you all continue following the events that we are doing with Black Millennials for Flint, along with how we're using the principles of Kwanzaa within the next 365 days. And any final thoughts, Latrice? I know that you had make sure that you fill out the survey and then also the video exiting the call and the chat. Thank you. Any final thoughts? Like, I'm just like, I feel like I don't want to say anything. I just want to just let it be and ride out.
Thank you so much. You've been a fantastic host.
Thank you.
I agree. And I feel like this was like, you know how we were talking about some like you had on weeks or those days, like this was refreshing for me also. So I thank both of you also. Oh, and let me shout out to Ashley in the chat. Ashley is one of the mamas that I have worked with over the years, and she will gas me up. Like she don't even know she be gassing me up, and she keeps me motivated in the work. Yes.
I was motivated too. I'm like, girl,
hey,
yes.
It's the energy bank. Call it the energy bank. Hey.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes.
This was all good energy. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Enjoy, everybody. Have a wonderful evening and take care and make sure you're supporting Black women and their work and leading this work. So I put their information in the chat. It's in the exit survey. So please continue intersecting environmental justice, well-being in our communities.
Thank you.